Section C14, Mail-in ballots. All non-resident and resident voters eligible to vote in a Beausoleil First Nation election will be notified about voter registration and receive a voter registration card in February of election year. This notification and distribution of the voter registration card is solely dependent upon whether the BFN membership department has current known address. For this reason, the onus is on the BFN members to provide updated information and are therefore encouraged to provide yearly address updates or at times of relocation. 14.2. Voter cards are only to be filled out if an elector wishes to vote by mail-in ballot. Populating a voter card will prompt the Chief Electoral Officer to send the elector a mail-in ballot, and they will be subject to the rules contained in 14.1. Those resident on reserve will also be provided with the option of voting by mail by filling out the voter registration card. 14.3 Ballots for BFN members who are inmates of correctional facilities may be accommodated. Ballots require the permission of institutions and therefore, special arrangements need to be made and approved with institutional liaison personnel. This special ballot will be subject to the rules of the mail-in ballot contained in Section C14. Requests for special ballots must be made through the member themselves through letter format addressed to the band membership clerk or through immediate family members who may bring forward current known address to the band membership clerk, who will then provide information to an inmate and invite participation in the upcoming election, subject to the institution rules. 14.4. Ballots for BFN members who are hospitalized within an institution also have the option of voting. Permission for this resides with the institution and therefore, special arrangements need to be made and approved with institution personnel. This ballot will also be subject to the rules of the mail-in ballot contained in Section C14. Requests for a special ballot must be made through the BFN member themselves, institutional personnel, or family members who can bring forward current known address. 14.5. When a BFN member is frail and/or bedridden and is resident on reserve, special arrangements can be made to have a ballot prepared, delivered, and witnessed by the Deputy Electoral Officer and the interpreter, provided that this request is at the advice of a physician, nurse, or nurse practitioner. This request must be made in writing or by phone at least 5 business days prior to the election day. Once approved, the BFN member will be notified that they are eligible for an alternate ballot arrangement. 14.6. When the voter registration card is filled out and returned using postage-paid return mail, the eligible voter will be sent a mail-in ballot for the purposes of voting. 14.6. A mail-in voting package consists of the following: A. Voting instructions. B. Declaration of identity. C. Return envelope with postage prepaid. D. Ballot initialed by the Chief Electoral Officer. E. A ballot envelope. 14.7. At least 30 days before the day on which an election is to be held, the Chief Electoral Officer shall mail, to every resident and non-resident voter, who returns their voter registration card, a package consisting of A. A ballot, initialed on the back by the Chief Electoral Officer. B. An outer postage-paid return envelope, pre-addressed to the Chief Electoral Officer. C. A second, inner envelope marked ballot for insertion of the completed ballot. D. A voter declaration form with a witness attestation. E. A letter of instruction regarding the voting by mail-in ballot, and F. A notice of BFN election day. 14.8. 2 witnesses required for the voter declaration shall attest to A. The fact that the person completing and signing the voter declaration form is the person whose name is set out in the form, and B. Where the voter enlisted the assistance of another person due to disability or blindness, the fact that the voter is the person whose name is set out in the form, and that the ballot was marked according to the directions of the voter. 14.9. The Chief Electoral Officer will only provide those residents and non-resident voters with mail-in ballot packages: A. For whom the last known address has been provided to the Chief Electoral Officer through the voter registration card. B. Who directly contacts the Chief Electoral Officer and declares through formal affidavit that they did not receive a package through the mail or provides an alternate address to Chief Electoral Officer that is different from that provided by the Beausoleil First Nation, at least 10 days in advance. 14.10. The Chief Electoral Officer shall provide a mail-in ballot package to any resident voter who filled out a voter's registration card and requests a mail-in ballot. The responsibility to return the completed, updated and current address and voter registration forms to the Chief Electoral Officer lies with the voter. 14.11. The Chief Electoral Officer shall indicate on the detailed voters list that a ballot has been provided to each voter to whom a mail-in ballot was mailed or otherwise provided, and keep a record of the date on which, and the addresses to which, each mail-in ballot was mailed. 14.12. A voter may cast a mail-in ballot by A. Marking the ballot by placing an X that clearly indicates the voter's choice, but does not identify the voter, opposite the name of the candidate or candidates for whom the voter desires to vote. If any other mark than X used, this will result in a spoiled ballot. B. Folding the ballot in a manner that conceals the names of the candidates and any marks but exposes the electoral officer's initials on the back. C. Placing the ballot in the inner envelope and sealing that envelope. D. Completing and signing the voter declaration form in the presence of two witnesses who are at least 18 years of age. E. Placing the inner envelope and the completed voter declaration form in the outer envelope, and F. Delivering or mailing the mail-in ballot to the electoral officer before the time at which the polls close on the day of the election. 14.13. A voter who inadvertently spoils a mail-in ballot may request another ballot to replace the spoiled ballot by contacting the Chief Electoral Officer at least 10 days in advance of the election. 14.14. Mail-in ballots that are not received by the Chief Electoral Officer before the time at which the polls close on the day of the election are null and void. 14.15. A voter to whom a mail-in ballot was mailed may obtain a ballot and vote in person at a polling place if A. The voter returns the mail-in ballot to the Chief Electoral Officer or Deputy Electoral Officer, or B. Where the voter has lost the mail-in ballot, the voter provides the Chief Electoral Officer or Deputy Electoral Officer with a written affirmation signed by the voter in the presence of the Chief Electoral Officer or the Deputy Electoral Officer. 14.16. Mail ballots received after the date set for return of mail ballots shall be rejected by the Electoral Officer.